we're back. Episode 9, all time with Luke Wilson. Luke, we haven't put an episode in a little bit. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm amped. It's been a little bit, the holidays, a little traveling, but we got some heat today. We got some heat coming today, especially with our guests.
We got a special one coming your way today. You're gonna get a lot less Luke and Luke than you normally get. We got our first interview jumping on the pod. Kara Wagland, Sportscentre, TSN's very own Kara Wagland. You've seen her on your television screen for years now. We went into the interview. I was thinking 20, 30 minutes. We could throw to that, come back, talk some football, do stuff like that. But Kara is a very interesting person. She had a lot of good stories to tell. And when you get a storyteller like her and you get a storyteller like my good friend Luke Wilson on the same podcast, you end up about an hour into talking with a couple of very interesting people, and you're like, oh shit, like we're basically out of time. So this is going to be a little bit of a different week for us. You're going to get the Kara Wagland episode today. It's going to be the three of us chatting for most of that. And then tomorrow, Luke and I will be back with a full playoff preview. We're going to get Luke's Super Bowl picks. We're going to get his dark horse. He's going to give us the Seahawks pitch to why they'll beat the 49ers. So you're going to have to tune into the next episode to get all that. We're also going to have to chat about, you were in Toronto for 3 days. We hit the town a little bit. We got to hang out a little. So we'll dive into some stories about your weekend in Toronto, explain why there wasn't a podcast Sunday night as well. But for now, Luke, unless you got anything on the top of your mind, I think we just get to this Kara Wagland interview.
Let's get it going.
Let's do it. Hey, producer Alec, nice shirt.
Thanks, man.
Look at that.
KBC.
Fuck yeah.
Oh fuck.
That's
I thought it was
breast cancer.
CF. Okay.
No.
CFL.
I wouldn't.
Ryerson,
say get that shit
Ryerson
out of here.
baseball, buddy.
I wouldn't compliment a CFL shirt, Luke. You know me better than that. How is the audio?
Right,
I can't fully tell.
Karen, can you just try one more time?
Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Take the AirPods out.
Yeah. I'm gonna fuck around with something here.
It sounds like the AirPods are underwater.
Ooh, are you remotely managing my settings right now?
I am.
Freaking me out.
I am.
Little big brother.
Okay, can you flip the mic over to built-in microphone, internal microphone?
Yep.
And then keep the audio as AirPods.
Okay, I'm trying that.
Oh,
There it is.
There's sports.
Yeah?
I knew we'd get there eventually.
That's crispy right there. That's crispy right there.
All right.
I knew we'd get
Nothing
there eventually.
is
We just had to figure it out.
More annoying than bad audio. Sick.
No, there's nothing worse like listening to something, and like for me, it used to be like in the old YouTube days when videos wouldn't sync up with the audio. It'd almost be like unwatchable.
Yeah.
Bad audio or weird audio, stuff like that. We're going to see how much we leave in from the first part, but I'm going to assume if you're listening to this interview, you just heard us with some technical difficulties off the top. But Luke Wilson, Kara Wagland joining me right now. Our first guest on the pod, Kara, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
First guest? What about AB?
First interview. How about that? We've had AB on.
Okay.
But, we brought him on.
Don't disrespect AB.
No, I don't want to disrespect Al's
He
brother.
deserves
Al's brother and I.
He deserves it. No.
You relax. Al's brother and I cashed a parlay Monday night. A little SGP on the national championship. So next time we have him on, we'll have to chat about that. But we're not here to chat about Al's brother. We got Kara Wagland, like I said, our first official guest. We're gonna sit down and have a nice little chat. Wags, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm coming off a late Sportscentre, so I'm still in like wake up mode at noon, but that's okay.
What's that turnaround like? Like take me through like a typical day when you're working Sportscentre.
Oh man. Typical day when working Sportscentre, I'm up, I'm doing stuff throughout the day. Usually I'm checking emails, I'm listening to some pods, reading some articles. Usually I have some meetings or podcasts or things like that during the day. And then I head into Sportscentre usually around 9:00 p.m. for makeup. And then we rock live at 1 a.m. And then if it's a good night, you're walking out of there at 2:05. If Kawhi Leonard decides to announce he's going to the Los Angeles Clippers, then you are live until 5 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
And you go home with the sun coming up. Yeah. It's interesting because you never know when you're walking out of there.
Yeah. So what's that like? I got some questions and stuff that I was like, we could do a little bit down the line, but that I want to just jump right into that. You're working Sportscentre. It's a regular night. I think it was July, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
I think it was like 1:45 in the morning. Like you would recall that better. So how does that just like blow up your evening there?
So fun fact, Luke, our friend Kyle Lawson was actually producing that Sportscentre, which very rarely
Shout out
have
Kyle
I ever
Lawson.
worked with
Shout
him.
out Kyle
Shout out Kyle
Lawson.
Lawson. And so you know it was summertime because Jay's producer came over to work on our Sportscentre. Lindsay and I were hosting, and it was funny because Lindsay had been called in to do, I think she had done the like 10 or 11 to 1 block before our Sportscentre, which normally you don't do unless you're helping someone out or there was a sick call. So she had already been live for 2 hours straight. I come up at 1, we do our 1 hour, and then we were 3 minutes, I think, to being off air. And Lawson gets in our ear and he's like, Kawhi's going to LA. And everyone's just like, can we swear on this pod?
Yeah, you can fucking swear on this podcast. Don't
Okay.
worry.
Oh yeah.
Everyone, like legitimately everybody in the control room, everyone's like, fuck. Because we come up live in the goodbye and it's like, just start talking. So we were 3 minutes from being able to go home. And then we stayed live till 5 a.m. So Lindsay was literally like on air straight for a ridiculous amount of time, no bathroom breaks, nothing. So it just kind of blows up your night sometimes. And then you're trying to call people at like 2 o'clock in the morning, get your Raptors report, get Josh Lewenberg up, get Jack Armstrong up, see if you can get some guys on the horn, but they're sleeping. So it makes for an interesting Sportscentre, but it's fun. Those are the nights where you walk out at 5 a.m. and the adrenaline's pumping.
Okay, that was a couple questions I had for you, Kara, on that. Do you find, I'm kind of obviously the rookie with the TV stuff, but do you find after nights like that, it takes you a while to wind down? Like one of the things I've found is I'll be up there and everyone's like, wow, it's a long day on Sundays for me. But like my last segment usually is live. It's on Jay, and I'm just like completely buzzing afterwards. And I don't really know why that is. I mean, it is a high energy segment, but I'm like, I should be like dead and like ready to go to bed. So like you come up the Kawhi thing, like ready to rumble.
Yes. So something like that where it's breaking news, you're always like flying high after. Like a normal Sportscentre where everything goes according to plan. Like I go home and I'm asleep within 30 minutes of walking in the door. Like I have small windows with 2 small kids to get some sleep. So I can fall asleep pretty quick when I get home, unless it's extenuating circumstances and we had some crazy news story break. Or Conor McGregor kept us there late one night because he fake retired for like the 3rd time. So we were there till like 4:30. Fucking hate Conor McGregor.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So is there any like stories like that? And I don't know, this might be a little bit of a strange question where it's like Conor McGregor might retire and they're trying to keep you there late, and you're just kind of like sitting there scratch your head like, who the fuck cares?
Oh, I argued that one. I don't even remember
like
who.
The Kawhi thing.
Yes. You know me. I like to push back a little bit with our relationship with producers sometimes, which they love. But yeah, when Conor McGregor tried to retire, I think it was the 2nd time he had done it. And we're all sitting there going, he's not actually retiring. Like, this is bullshit. But it's a story. So you have a little back and forth. You push back a little to see where you kind of gauge the climate and see where everyone's head's at. But yeah, we stayed, unfortunately. But there's a lot of debate, though, over how big is this story, or do people really care about this story? Do we need to stay late to get this story into the show? There's a lot of that debate that goes on in Sportscentre.
Interesting. And then who's like the big brother that makes the final decision? Especially if it's like 3 a.m. The producer is.
The producer makes the call. If it's something that we can't really come to terms on, then we have like an executive producer that kind of oversees Sportscentre at night and one that oversees it during the day. And so that person would be called to kind of give the final decision and weigh in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you ever think
I can argue they don't really care what I think?
Yeah. Do you ever think that the executive producer sometimes might just like for example, let's say they don't like me and they're annoyed and a big football story comes out. Yeah, which is pretty. Yeah. Anyways, we're not gonna talk about that. Okay. You think they'll just like, I feel like fucking with Luke today. Let's keep him there, or is it pretty like? Think there's any? I mean,
I can't give away the inner workings of what goes on behind the scenes. There might be some string pulling sometimes, but no. For the most part, when it comes to the hosts, no, they know, like, they try to get us out. Try and get the crew out. Like, they're pretty good because they know there's going to be a night like Kawhi where we're going to have to stay late And so, you know, it's a morale thing. If they can get us out, they'll get us out. It's been pretty good, especially lately. Sometimes we'll go up and tape a little bit and get out even earlier. But no, there's not with us anyway.
So now this is my last question on this topic for now. Luke might have something, but would you say that, like, I don't know the exact term still, I should, but when you're going to do a SportsCenter hit with an analyst, there's the director and then there's the producer of that hit, correct?
Yes.
So the producer could be producer Alec, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, there's somebody
He's
who's
in my
overseeing.
ear, me and him cut. Yeah.
Yeah, he's overseeing.
Would you say that producer Alec is the absolute worst producer you have to deal with, specifically because he likes the CFL? And if that's not enough, because you went to Guelph, would you say that?
I actually love him because I also went to Guelph, so I don't appreciate the Guelph slander on this podcast. Come on, Luke Wilson. Someone's not doing their research.
I knew about the criminal justice degree, but you're a Guelph Griffin?
What's a Griffin? It's what just kicked your ass. That's what a Griffin is.
What?
How about that?
What? Okay, let's get into
we
this.
We gotta unpack that.
Start it up, Luke. Let's go. Start asking the questions. I'm here for the peanut gallery questions. Let's get into
asking the questions. We're 10 minutes into the interview.
Not the SportsCenter questions. We gotta dive deep into the background of Wags right now.
Oh gosh.
Well, yeah, because Wags, I told you this the other day. Like, it's you got a good story. It's a fascinating story. I'd love to talk about it. So the criminal justice degree from the University of Guelph, as we just alluded to. But prior to that, no thought, no experience, to my knowledge at least, of like sports broadcasting or anything like that. I find that kind of interesting because for a guy like myself, I apologize because you're going to hear this again for the second time in 5 days. But, you know, like I find myself fortunate. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew in high school I was going to go to journalism school. In my fourth year, I was going to get an internship. I went to TSN.ca, got an internship, hired right out of school. So it was a pretty clean process. People sometimes ask me, they're like, yo, would you have any advice for like what to do after school? And I'm like, not really. My path was pretty simple. So to meet someone like you who's been on television as long as you've been on television and to hear about your story, I think it's pretty interesting. So like you get that degree from Guelph, and then what's the next month, 3 months, 6 months? Like what's your timeline there? Like how does that kind of look? How do things play out after that?
I think in my third year at Guelph, I decided I didn't want to go into law anymore. Like I wanted to be a lawyer, or I kind of pivoted a little bit and started trailing towards forensic science. That was kind of the path I wanted to take. But it would have meant so much more schooling and getting a doctorate and all this crap. And I was like, you know what? That's not the kind of law or forensics I wanted to go into. So third year I pivoted. I finished my degree. And then I'd say like the year after university was probably one of the worst years of my life, just because I had no direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I feel like most people, when you come into university, you expect somebody to just hand you a 6-figure salary. You're like, I got a degree. What do you mean you don't want to give me a job? And that was not the case. I went on like a ton of interviews. I interviewed for like PR companies, HR. I even interviewed with a special effects company that did special effects for movies, like all over the place. And I finally I've told this story a few times, but I don't know if you guys remember Workopolis, if that's even a thing anymore. For us older people, you used to go online and you check the jobs available on Workopolis. And I wrote down like the first 100 jobs that sounded interesting. And all but like 5 of them needed a journalism background. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should be considering journalism. So then I started applying for post-grad programs and kind of did that thing and went that route. And then I did a 1-year post-grad at Sheridan. And I loved doing on-air right away. And you could either do news, sports, or entertainment. And I was like, well, I love sports. I grew up playing sports. Let's do that. And that was amazing. And then just kind of put my head down and work from there. But it's funny because I went back to my old high school a few years back and I ran into a couple of my teachers and we were talking about that. Like, are you surprised that's the path I took? And my one comm tech teacher was like, no, I'm not surprised at all. Like, don't you remember? And I had no recollection. I was like, wow, I completely forgot about that. Because it was always just like screwing around. It wasn't anything serious to me, but like the comm tech course you used to take in high school is always like, you get a good grade, you do it, it's fine. It wasn't anything serious. Yeah. But we used to do broadcasts of our boys basketball team. And I would jump in the booth and do play-by-play for it. And I had completely forgotten about it. And there was a big tournament, like the boys basketball team went to Kawasa and I went, and completely as a joke, after the game I went down and was doing like sideline interviews after the game. And I had completely forgotten about all of that. And they're like, no, you were doing all that stuff in high school. Like, it just never seemed like a job to me. It was like just fun. So I was a little bit of a glimpse into like, oh, okay, like maybe I did know what I wanted to do a long time ago. It just took me a while to figure it out.
So what was your first jump into that world? I assume it wouldn't have been all that high level of position. Like for myself, like I was a volunteer at Channel 9, just trying to build a resume and do stuff like that, right? Like you would have been in school. So where was your first like introduction there to the media landscape, I guess?
I did an internship for the summer at Sun TV in Toronto at a show called The Grill Room that was at the time hosted by Gareth Wheeler. And I interned there for a couple months. And then one of the guys I went to J school with had been working on TSN behind the scenes on the row, as we call it. And he put in a good word for me and I went and interviewed and I worked behind the scenes for 3.5 years, all while, because I knew I wanted to go on air, I volunteered with Rogers Television, Peel Region. I hosted an OHL hockey show there. And so I think I volunteered for like 3.5 years, getting like on-air stuff, whatever on the side, like hosting this weekly show and doing reporter work, all while working full-time on the row. And then...
Okay.
Luke, do you know what the row is?
I have no idea, but I do have a question. Tell me what the row is first.
The row is like all the people behind the scenes in Sportscentre when you're watching the show that are running around with their heads cut off, running scripts and stuff. So it's all the people who write the highlight packs, cut the highlight packs, write scripts, all the behind the scene works that actually put together Sportscentre. So I used to write. It's funny because Jay was in Sportscentre when he used to host Jay and Dan, and I used to write his scripts. And saying like Dennis, who's our NFL producer, I used to do packs for his shows and try so hard not to screw that up. So I kind of came from like putting the show together behind the scenes. And then when we expanded to 5 feeds and opportunities opened up.
Now I've got 2 questions now. We'll start with the row. This is my new question. Is it nerve-wracking to be on the row? And maybe producer Alec will join in here, but is there ever a point where you do something on the row and it doesn't turn out in like the football analyst, some dickhead with a man bun comes over there and is like, what the fuck was that? And starts talking shit. Or is the row generally offside? You don't ever talk to the row because they're really, now you say it, the row's got to be the meat and potatoes of Sportscentre. I mean, they're making the smart people.
Yes, the smart people take care of the row and protect the row.
Fair.
But I mean, it's very different now. I try to remind myself that than when I was on the row. So producer Alec can probably weigh into more what it's like now, but it was far more nerve-wracking to work on the row than it is now working on air because you are up against it. You're doing packs and live shows. Your game's not done. You could be like clipping, like making shot lists for multiple games. You got to run these cut sheets that have the times. Like it is buzzing. Like it is high energy. People are stressed the F out. It's crazy in there. So there was definitely a lot of times where you're just like, do I even want to do this? Because it was so stressful.
Sounds.
Here he is.
I'm not hot fan because like
Alec.
Kara, like I can relate to working on the row. Got an email last night and asked to cut an SC backstory about Carlos Correa with
that I read for you,
voicing that exactly. So something that's resonated with me is that sinking feeling when something goes on air that you cut or that you scripted and it's wrong. Did you ever have an experience like that? Because I've had a few, and we all do when you work on the row. You're trying to turn something around quickly, or you're trying to make a cut sheet or something, and something is wrong. And it's not the end of the world, but it's live television, and it happens. Did you ever have a moment like that where you got that? Because I know I did. You get that sinking feeling in your gut, like, this is the last highlight pack I'm ever going to make because they're never going to let me do this again.
And it was different when I was on the row because if you fucked up in Sportscentre, something that you did went to air and it was wrong, there was like punishments. So you would get the NASCAR assignment for like 2 weeks, or you would get like, you would get the game or the pack that was like because you aim for like first block items. You want to be on like whatever is running in the first block. Those are the best people who get to do those packs, and you just knew that you had 2 weeks worth of something in block 6 coming your way if you screwed up. So I had one mistake go to air. So I'm pretty lucky. 3 years on the row, one mistake went to air, but it was a bad one. And it just happened to be our guy, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It happened to be Dennis producing the show, our NFL producer, Dennis, who can be a little, like, not scary if he's listening to this, but he's very good at what he does.
I love Dennis. Yeah.
He's all business.
Goated. Yeah.
You do not want to mess up for him.
Yeah.
He makes you want
like
to do
that.
good things. So I was doing a basketball pack. Kyrie Irving had just come into the league, and I was starting the pack on a Kyrie Irving ISO, like isolated shot. You know, you write down the time code, you send it off to the editor or whatever, you script it. I was up against it. I'm running the script up. The pack runs, and the highlight manager comes over, and they're like, Kara, I need you to change the shot off the top of your pack. I'm like, what do you mean? Why? It's not Kyrie Irving. It was Boobie Gibson. And I'm like, how did this happen? How did this happen? And it was like no one's fault, but it was like a massive breakdown of like time code error. Editor didn't notice it. I didn't notice it. Highlight manager, like it's just like no one noticed the error before it went to air. And then I had to go, because back in my day, if you made a mistake, you went over to the producer after, like heart in hand, and we're like, I am so, and I had to look Dennis straight in the eyes while he stared into my soul and say, I'm so sorry. I do know who Kyrie Irving is. I'm not a complete idiot. Like, please don't give me figure skating or something. Like, you know, help me out here. And he just looked at me and went, yep.
Oh,
okay.
no, not
and I was like, I couldn't sleep for like 2 weeks. I'm like, this is awful.
Oh,
this is the worst.
That's tough.
So,
okay, so now can I flip this for both of you? Can I flip this around real quick?
Okay.
Have you ever gotten to the point where it's the opposite? And I'm sure you have to like study the same thing. Like for me right now, when I'm doing the SC hits and it's different hosts, I'm kind of like, I bring different energy to try and like have chemistry with whoever the host is. Is it the same working on the row where you're like, okay, I've got the Kyrie Irving clip, but I also need to know who it's for so that I can write it so that they'll like it? And has there ever been a chance where like you put a masterpiece together? Like, yo, I've got this written script. I've got these highlight packs, and it's just like some of the best work I've done. You put it on there, and the analyst just poops down his leg and just fumbles the bag. How does that feel? Or is that a human thing?
I mean, I have a different perspective now because I have definitely screwed up people's packs before, where you just like, you get a pack cold and you're like, you annihilate it. You feel so bad. You're like, dude. But you do kind of like, at least when I was on the row, you kind of script things a little bit. You're like, okay, this guy will say this, but this guy won't. He'll have some fun with it. This guy talks a lot slower, so I have to do less scripting, kind of things like, I don't know, Alec, how do you guys script for me?
Yeah.
Now I'm curious.
So I'll hop in. So like there are certain, I'm not going to throw my under the bus, but there's certain people that we know at Sportscentre that talk slower. And my general rule of thumb has always been script for the slowest people, right? Script it as if that person is going to. But I will say, when I click into the 1 a.m. and I see that I got Kara Wagland reading it, I know exactly how you're going to do it. And I love to leave space for the good hosts who, you know, have room to improv. Like, Kara, you know your shit, right? Like, you know all these players, you know what's going on. So it's easy to, like, with hosts like Kara, where you can just throw in a line and just leave like 5 or 10 seconds and just put ad lib. Like, that's one of my favorites. Just ad lib this, you know, what's going on. But it also depends on when it is. And Kara, I guess this leads to my next question. What is, because I've been on the other side of this, where you have the first block item. And like you talked about, having that like block one item is like, it's a real deal. Like, it's fun when you get that first thing coming into the show. But when we're up out of the game, you know, say I had the Ottawa Senators the one time, and that's the first pack of the show. The game is like ending and you're coming straight on. They're throwing to Sportscentre. What's it like when you know, the script runner is running up with the script and putting it on your desk, and they're like, and we're live in 30 seconds, right? You're hearing the PA, you know, 30 seconds to air as the person's dropping the script, and you've never seen that script before. You maybe
I got to brag on Kara. I got to brag on Kara, Alec. This is it. When this situation happens, I've seen it live. There's nobody more comfortable in North America, bro. You want to talk about cool, calm, and collected? At least on the surface. I'll let her answer what's going on in her head, but I've seen this live. We're about to go, and the CTV show gets a lot, from what I've been told, there's a big audience, and Carol will sit there and absolutely cook, and not Russell Wilson cook, real cooking, bro. Okay, I'm like, I tell her all the time, and we'll be on the air sometimes, and it'll be like, oh shit, like I didn't give Kara enough time, and there'll be a guy like, or a girl being like, you got 15 seconds. She's got a whole board to get through. Boom, every single time. It does not matter. It does not matter how many seconds the countdown is. Kara Wagland will get it to 1/10 of a second. It doesn't matter when the script comes in. The only time I've ever seen her annoyed in my life with scripts was last week when it was getting printed out of the thing beside
The
her.
printer
Remember
next
that?
to me. I was having to grab my
Yeah,
own
that was the
scripts,
only
yes.
time I've seen her angry.
Yes. But you know why? Because I'm having
I don't. I want to hear this.
I'm having boards printing next to me, and we're live on a 2-shot. I can't reach down and grab a script, and I have the person in my ear going, I just printed a new board for you. That's great. I can't grab it. I'm on camera. So there's little things like that you have to plan out for, and you make it work. But
this is what I'm saying, though. Dude, she's live on television grabbing scripts that she's never seen before as we're rolling, not even before the set. I'll be over there like, shit, dude, that looks way harder than what I'm about to do. Yeah, it's electric. It's electric.
It always makes me laugh. Well,
like,
it's funny because
like
it makes me laugh that Luke is so impressed that I can hit times because it's literally my job to hit times. So I don't think I would be a good host if I couldn't hit a time.
You never miss, Kara. I've never seen you miss. And a few of them when I get the thing in my ear, I'm like, there's no way. But there was a way. There was a way.
I'll chew my tongue off a little bit before I get there sometimes, but we usually get there. I'm actually in the minority when it comes to cold scripts. I prefer my scripts cold because I want to be able to, my whole goal with Sportscentre and the CTV live show, I want it to feel like I'm sitting at home watching the highlights for the first time with somebody. And so my reaction is going to change if I've already read it. So I want to be reacting cold to everything. So, I mean, my producer on the 1AM, Griff, always makes fun of me because he says I'm the only host that likes scripts cold, but I will sit there and I'll get all my scripts for Sportscentre. I won't look at any of them. Like, I'll look through for names, make sure I'm not going to, obliterate someone's name.
Yeah.
But then I'll watch the actual highlight pack cold because that, to me, is the way I'm going to do it the best. So NFL and CTV Live on Sundays, I don't really have the choice. I get those scripts cold whether I want them or not. It's come very close sometimes. See, the benefit in Sportscentre is you have a prompter there. And there should be somebody rolling that prompter through the packs. So if you don't get the pack, you can always read it off prompter. On Sundays, we don't have prompter at all. Like, the prompters are turned off on the camera. There's nothing. So if I don't get that script, we're ad-libbing our way through this pack we've never seen. So there's a few weeks ago where the transition leading into the game had already rolled, and we were on the first play as I was being handed the script. That's probably the closest it's come on the NFL show. And we just rolled with it. But when you have analysts in studio, we can rap. We can make it work.
Yeah. Here's a question, Kara, that people ask me all the time about football. And just bringing it back a few steps here and listening to your kind of the journalism and weren't sure what to do with the law stuff. Was there a point that you knew you would be a anchor on TSN and a star in the network? Like, at what point were you like, yo, I'm going to eventually one day be, hosting the CTV NFL on Sunday show?
I mean, I never knew I'd be doing NFL.
Does that make sense? Okay, but I guess what I'm asking is people all the time will be like, Luke, man, at what year did you know, or like at what age were you like, I'm going to the NFL? And it was always, I've never really known how to answer that because I never really thought like there was ever a concrete moment in my life until almost a month or two before the draft where I was like, I'm going to the NFL. Was there a moment where you were like, okay, I'm doing the OHL show, I'm volunteering, and you're like, I'm fucking good at this shit. I'm gonna go to, I mean, there's nowhere to go, maybe the States if you want, but as far as Canada goes, you're at the top. Like, there's nowhere else to go. You're at the
TSN is
number one sports. I mean, it's it. You're at the Mecca.
I don't know if this is exactly what you're talking about, but once I figured out, like, I've always been someone like, I just wanted to know what I wanted to do in life. That year where I didn't know what I wanted to do was awful. So I always knew once I figured it out, I could put my head down and get to wherever I wanted to get to. Like, I will put my head down and grind. But once I figured out that I wanted to do sports on air, then it was like TSN immediately. Obviously, I want to get there. I want to do Sportscentre. And I can remember, so I volunteered for 3.5 years. Like, most people don't work for free that long. And I can remember I worked at a bar through the whole time to make money. And I can remember my boss being like, seriously though, when are you going to give up on this? Like, when are you going to call it a day and do something else? And I was like, wow. What do you mean? Like, it's not even a question in my mind. Like, it wasn't how long is it going to take me to get, whether I would get there. It was just how long. I knew I would get there because I knew that I would put in work.
Okay. And you knew you had the talent to do it right away.
Not necessarily. Like, I knew that I had something. Like, I had some sit downs with on-air profs and stuff where they said, like, we think, I had an on-air prof who was really pushing me towards news. And she kept saying, you could be the next Diane Sawyer. You should go into news. And I just didn't love news. And that would have been, there was more jobs available at the time in news. I just wanted to do sports. I figure if you don't love what you're doing on air, it comes across that way. So I knew that I had like a foundation there. But there's always going to be someone more talented. I could point to every aspect of my job and tell you somebody that works at TSN who is better at it than I am. So my whole outlook was there's always going to be someone who's better highlights, better on camera, better with analysts, but I can control outworking everybody else. So if I work harder, that's what I can control. And so that was always my mentality. It's like, I'm just going to put my
I'm ready to run through a wall right now.
Do it.
Let's go.
Don't tell me Jeff Saturday can lead, man. I can lead, man. Let's go.
I like that. Hey, shout out the Colts. Your guy, Luke Bellis, big Colts guy.
God, they fucking suck this year.
Yeah, it's not good, man.
Can we actually, speaking to Jeff Saturday, Pittsburgh Steelers, Monday Night Football, no timeouts and all that stuff. You're a Steelers fan. How'd you feel about the year?
I felt okay about it. I went in with very low expectations. I'm glad that they got the last win for Mike Tomlin. Man, I fucking love Mike Tomlin. Like, I know he probably won't win Coach of the Year, but I'm glad that he's at least in the conversation. I mean, I was ready to move towards the future. I thought Ben should have retired a year earlier. Like, I was in that, like, let's move forward earlier than they should have or earlier than they did. Yeah. I like what I saw from Kenny Pickett, man. I'm excited. Like, the defense is good. I like George Pickens. Like, I think the future is bright. Like, we need some pieces. Need to get the O-line right. But I think other than that, like, there's a lot to be excited about as a Steelers fan.
I would agree. Honestly, I thought this was, and I would highly agree with what Kara just said. I thought roster-wise, especially losing TJ Watt, at one point I was like, this team's going to win 4 games this year. They have no quarterback, and the defensive MVP just got hurt and was out for an extended period of time. You look at this team, and the other thing I'll say too is I thought Kenny Pickett still got a long way to go, but I thought he went through a very, very great transformation as the season went on. When he first got in, and Kara was telling me, and she was right, and I don't love being wrong on my takes, but we had this off-air chat, and I was like, Kenny Pickett's a bum. This guy's got no shot in this league. And he did start somewhat rough, but boy, I mean, he looked by the end of the year, I'm like, you know what? The 2-minute drive in week 17, I'm like, he's got a little moxie about him. The squad's rallying. He's making some throws. You're seeing Pickens kind of emerge, Freiermuth emerge a little bit. I actually think the teams like should be competitive in the division next year.
Yeah.
And they went 9-8. I mean,
and they finished with a win. Like it's Tomlin, dude. Tomlin's crazy. And it kind of makes sense that he'd find a way to develop Kenny Pickett better than other coaches were developing rookie quarterbacks. He didn't throw him in right off the jump, if I recall. Did he start the season?
No,
it was was it Mitch?
We saw we saw Trubisky for a short period of time there. Biscuits didn't make it too far, but we kind of knew that was what it was going to be.
What about Troy Polamalu and those Steelers teams called your name? How'd they win you over?
Man, it was Troy. It was the way he plays. I didn't grow up watching football. Like in my family, it was baseball, hockey. And that's what we watched. Like I remember like falling asleep on the couch, watching baseball games with my dad. Like it was all Jays all the time. We never watched, like I can vaguely remember kind of being a Bills fan growing up. Like I had a Bills jacket during the Jim Kelly days. Like, but it was never like a big thing in my household. So I didn't really start watching football until probably like beginning of university, when I started rolling with some of the football players at Guelph. Shout out Griffins. And
God.
a bunch of my friends played
Alex
football.
goes smile from ear to ear. Yeah.
I dated one of the football players for a while at the Guelph Griffins. Like, yeah, so that kind of got me into it. I started watching, and that was during like a little bit of a heyday for the Steelers. So watching Troy was just so dynamic.
We were talking Guelph?
Yes.
You see what we have to deal with, Kara? You see what
yes.
We're talking Guelph?
I love it.
You see what we have to deal with.
Guelph Griffins? Sorry. I heard something about the Guelph Griffins.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For the people only listening, producer Alec just showed up with a Guelph Griffins. Is that a towel? Is this
a blanket? This is a Guelph Griffins blanket.
Toilet paper.
I think 90% of 90% of the things I own might be Guelph Griffins. I mean, Carrie, you know what Guelph is like. Like Guelph is the best. Guelph was the best.
Beautiful place.
University town.
Okay.
How many
Okay,
nights at Frank's, Kara? We got to talk about Frank's.
Listen,
Okay.
I don't know that we want
Okay.
to dive into my bartending days because that might get a little offside.
Okay.
But yes,
I like that.
After
yeah,
show.
we had some fun.
Kara,
Your
what's
boy
your
Justin
vibe on
Dunk.
James Harrison?
Alec,
I just
your
got
boy
familiar
Justin
with
Dunk was one of my best customers.
Justin Dunk, best quarterback in University of Guelph history.
I remember watching Justin Dunk as a kid in the OUA. I do remember that name.
He was so good.
And then, didn't he have like a CFL kind of like gig on TV for a little bit?
Yeah, he still does.
He still
a lot of
does,
CFL. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I erased the
He's
CFL
just
from
over-
my
he's just
memory
over
like
at the
7-8
other
years ago.
He's over at the
That's
network
okay.
that must not be named.
The other guys.
Back to the
Yeah, they're-
Steelers. Back to the Steelers. What's your vibe on James Harrison?
What's my vibe on him? In
yeah,
what respect?
fan,
Do
not
I
a fan.
like
Did
him?
you like him?
I liked him when he was with the Steelers. Kind of went off a little bit when he left. Like, I didn't really agree with some of the stuff, but yeah, I liked him when he was a Steeler. What?
Yeah,
I feel like you have a take here.
Sorry.
Okay,
Well,
let's hear it.
I might have a personal experience. I mean, Luke, he's shocked.
Is this the story?
I think it's the story. I think this is the time to tell the James
Oh
Harrison
my.
story.
Let's do it.
There's a little bit of vulgar language, but Carol, we're getting ready to play the Steelers. I think it's my 3rd or 4th year. We're in Seattle, and Thomas Rawls was our running back. I don't know if you remember the year Thomas Rawls kind of went off. Marshawn got hurt. Thomas Rawls came in, and he was having a good year. And we're playing Big Ben, and Big Ben was cooking back then, and he cooked this game. And we were kind of struggling a little bit to run the ball. And we had this play that they're like, hey, Luke, I think Bud Dupree was still a Steeler at the time. And they're like, you're going to start kind of on the left, offset from the line, if you can kind of picture this. The whole line's going to block zone left. I'm going to jet to the right and basically torpedo into the thigh board of Bud Dupree's leg, like just dive straight at above his knee. And so it's a totally legal play, but somewhat frowned upon if you're a defensive player. But, I was the grimy Canadian kid, so I always had the grimy jobs. It didn't mind me. So they're like, hey, the one thing we're not going to do is call it against James Harrison because he's short for that outside linebacker spot. He's very, very short. So it's harder to cut him down, if that makes sense. So sure as shit, we get out there. I'm in the huddle. They call this play. I'm like, I kind of liked it because I really got to quote unquote, let my hair down, just sell out for a block, if you will. And I look over and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, they told me they wouldn't call it. It's James Harrison. So I'm like, all right. There's a couple things I used to do mentally and physically. I'll spare you those exact moments, but I'm like, I better get my shit ready. So I'm like, okay, I can either be a pussy or I can sell out and just try and fuck up James Harrison. And so I fly over there with everything that I have, and I throw, meaning literally dive, leave my feet, hit him right in the kneecap. Not a big hit, like you've seen on film. Not it's James Harrison. The guy's like a human bowling ball. But I get the job done, and we break a run. Okay, so the play works. And I get up, and I know that what I did was not fucked up, but again, a little gray area. And he looks at me, and he's like, "You're a fucking bitch." And he's bad as fuck, dude. If you can imagine this.
That's a scary individual right there.
Yes, exactly. And he's just frothing at the mouth. And I think part of it was he's obviously very smart at this point. He'd played forever. I don't think he thought anyone was stupid enough to actually try and attempt this kind of block on him. So it caught him a little by surprise. And we didn't also do it a ton. So on film, it wasn't something he would have seen a lot. And he's following me around, and he's just going, "You fucking bitch." And I'm like, what? And I'm playing dumb. I'm like, what I do, man? Well, the play works. So sure as shit, I can't remember if it was the next drive or a few plays later, we call it again. And I look over, I'm like, oh, it's probably Bud Dupree. Nope, it's James Harrison. So I peek over, and he's looking at me, and he's like, "Come bring that shit, buddy." And I'm like, oh, God, the element of surprise is gone. Anyways, this time he meets me in the hole again. I didn't get absolutely smacked when you see it on film, but he clearly wins the rep. We get blown up on the inside, too. Our running back tries to bounce it. It ends up being a tackle for a loss. And he gets right up, finds me right away, and looks at me and goes, "I told you you're a fucking bitch." I was like, dude, that's my first moment. It was one of times in my football career where I'm like, what am I supposed to say? I mean, at that point, it's James Harrison. We've seen all the videos of him. But I was kind of happy that happened. I got to have an experience with good old James.
When
thick head, big head. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, huge individual.
When you told me the story, you said you looked over the second time and James's shoulder was like on the ground. That's how like
on the ground.
Like
come
leverage,
on.
Like come get me. Like
he knew.
That is
I mean, it was
so
the exact
scary
same
to me. I
formation,
can't even imagine.
but on the other side. And he was like, "Oh, you want to try that shit again?" And I'm like,
I would have gone like, no. Hey, Pete.
Yeah, I need a timeout.
Pete,
I gotta hit the bathroom, something.
Kill.
Yeah.
Switch.
Kill.
Oh man. Wow.
Like you're sitting there. Yeah, I'm on the field.
Is that the
like,
most
this is
afraid
probably
you've
not gonna
been?
work.
Knowing someone's coming after you, or is there another incident
I
where
would
someone's
say-
scared you a little more?
Out of everybody who's talked shit to me, Kara, that was the one that was probably the most evil spirited. Like most of the shit talking has like a little bit of jest where you're like, yo, you're trash. I mean, it's obviously a lot worse than that, but you get what I'm saying, where it's like you kind of think of good zingers. Like I told somebody on Cleveland once, like the reason they were in Cleveland, like we all know careers go to die there. And but it was like kind of funny, not for him, but but like for him just to consistently call me a fucking bitch and like be so mad about it.
That's
He
amazing.
was so
I
mad.
love it.
I'm like, damn, James Harrison's he's hurt right now. Like this isn't going to be one of those things where after the game, I'm like, you talk shit in after the game, you're like, respect, bro, good game.
And then you dap it up.
like,
no, there's no
yeah,
dapping it up.
I don't think
after.
James is dapping me up after this. Yeah. But
I love it.
yeah, and you know what? But back to the Steelers thing, there's a few takes I've had this year where I was like, shit, I wish I would have taken that back. And the Steelers one was it, because in the middle, it was very early, but at one point I said, I believe on Jay's show, I think the Steelers will be the worst team in the NFL this year. And boy, did they prove me wrong.
It's right
I mean,
before
at
they
the
beat
time-
the Bucks.
Yeah, Trubisky was still in, so they couldn't move the ball to save his life. And then TJ Watt got hurt. So I do want to say I did have the foundation of on the call, but then all of a sudden it was like Pickett came in, you said it, kind of reinvigorated this team. They figured it out defensively, at least like do well enough, and they stopped the run for the most part.
At
And
least
now all of a sudden they're 9-8, and we're 5 points away, really 3 because we're not going to count the safety of going to the playoffs. Like if the Jets had, I think they lost 11-6 to the Dolphins in the two at the very last play of the game. I mean, if the Jets aren't the Jets, we're seeing right now the Steelers versus Buffalo.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have really made much noise in the playoffs, but would have been nice to be there. But that's okay. I'm coming out of the year still feeling positive.
Yeah,
Buffalo's tough.
Buffalo's
they're gonna light up the Dolphins this weekend.
Yeah, how do you think the playoffs shake out here?
Let's get a little prediction. You know what? Let's get a little Kerouac prediction on the weekend.
Let's flip it on. Right. Let's flip it on the host.
What do you want to start with? You want to just run through the matchups here?
Yeah.
Let's run through
potential
the
upset.
Potential upsets. I think that we could see some like serious blowouts here in this round.
Okay.
I think the most. I mean, San Francisco is going to light up your Seahawks. I'm real sorry.
No, I knew you would say that.
It's going to happen. Buffalo's going to light up Miami. Cincinnati's going to light up Baltimore. The most intriguing games to me. I mean, Cowboys, Bucks. Both teams aren't really great to me, but someone's got to come out on top. So that one's going to be interesting. I think the Giants Vikings is going to be really interesting. Just because I still don't trust that Vikings defense. What else? Or what other matchups are we missing here?
Chargers Jags.
Chargers Jags. I know Mike Williams is supposed to play. I want to know how healthy he is, though. I feel like the Chargers, if they're healthy, could make a lot of noise in the playoffs. Like once they started getting healthy, Herbert got some good targets. They looked really good. So I don't know. I'm still riding with Chargers in that one, but I could be wrong on that one.
Here's a question I thought I had. Excuse me. I thought I had yesterday. Right now, I think of this Chargers team, Kara, and I totally agree. But then I'm like, damn. I don't know if I would put them in front of the Bengals, the Bills, or the Chiefs. So my question to both of you is, if the Chargers were in the NFC right now, are they the favorites to get at? Like, this sounds nuts.
No.
Are they the
You think
Not
what
even
team
close.
would you Belly? What team would you put ahead of them though?
Belly?
Eagles are on bye.
Belly
Eagles are
loves-
on bye. Eagles are on bye. But like
Well, the
aside from the
Niners.
Eagles.
Who beats
Yeah,
the
the
Chargers?
Niners.
in
Yeah,
NFC?
yeah,
No.
yeah. Okay, I put them
No.
behind the Niners. Eagles, Niners,
No.
and then probably Chargers.
Dude,
Who are you putting
Chargers are the
over
two.
them? Are you
Chargers
putting the
are the 2
Cowboys?
seed.
Oh, you
No,
are.
no,
Okay.
I'm saying the Chargers are the 2
Yeah.
seed in the NFC. They would beat
Over
the
the
Niners this weekend.
49ers.
Yeah, they
Brandon
would beat the
Staley
Now
Niners.
that's
can't
your
coach.
Niners hate, your Niners bias showing
Yeah,
through.
Kara, I
this
have
Chargers
to
team can
Come
sling
on.
it.
This
But
Niners
listen,
team could be the
the
most
Niners are
complete team
going
we've
home
seen in
this
a
weekend.
while.
They're going
Oh.
home this weekend.
Producer Alec, can you mute
They're
his
going.
mic?
Pete Carroll's riding a scooter around the facility.
Like, I'm not
I
even
saw
kidding.
that.
I know
Can
you've
you
seen the
mute his
clip.
mic?
But I don't know, man. I don't know. You know what holes the Seattle Seahawks have right now. Geno hasn't been cooking the last few games. Like, I don't know.
Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
you
not
know what?
happening.
I want to.
They're not going to be able to stop the run game.
Can I float this idea? Can we just chew on it for
Float
a
it.
little bit? We got a couple days.
Yeah.
I want to read. I'm going to get the exact stats out right now. But the
Stat guy.
Bills and the Dolphins, stat guy. Last time they played, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the Dolphins ran for about 200 yards. So why does everybody think this is going to be a blowout?
Wasn't Tua their quarterback for that game?
He was, and he went 17 for 30 for 234 yards. Not
Wasn't
a
it
great
also-
day at the office. Not a
wasn't
bad
also
day.
Snowing that game? I recall that being a Saturday night. I was at a married couple's house doing Christmas.
So
Our
theoretically
first, French
speaking, if it was
Christmas as a
snowing, they
group.
should
It was
know that
quite
you're
nice.
going to rush the ball. Miami went 25 rushes for 188, 7.5 average in a snow game. So you know they're going to try and run the ball. You're telling me that Mike McDaniel isn't the Buffalo Bills' daddy right now? Is he not
Yes.
their daddy?
That's what I'm telling you.
Are
He's
you
not
really
their
making a
father.
case for the Dolphins to
Oh,
beat
yeah.
the Bills right now?
The Dolphins, this bad
Here's-
boy is going to be close. This
Here's the
bad
one
boy's
thing
gonna
that
be
you're
real
not.
close.
Listen, the Bills have holes. We've talked about the Bills need to clean
Yes.
some shit up. They have their issues. When something happens, this is where we talk about the X factor. That like you and I joke about AB. He doesn't see the X factors in sports.
Agreed.
When you have
Agreed.
something of the magnitude of what happened to DeMar Hamlin 10 days ago or whatever it was, and come out on the other side of that in a good way, I can see the Bills running the table and winning the Super Bowl. Like, that is galvanizing, man. Like, I don't care who they're going up against. You have no way to explain it because it's one of those X Factor things, except
Fair.
it could happen.
So
They have the motivation. Can you imagine they go in to the conference finals and DeMar Hamlin is in the stadium for the first time, able to watch the game? You're telling me they're not winning that regardless of who they're playing against?
my fear, and it's a great
I don't
point.
think they'll be there. I don't think they'll be there, Kara. I think they're going to be bounced. I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to cook them in the second round.
Okay, so now you see them getting past Miami. You're already going against your.
I think it'll be
original
very, very
predictions.
close. I think it's going to come down to who wins if Skylar Thompson can manage the game and not turn it over.
Dude, Skylar
So-
Thompson
Yeah.
didn't have a throw to Waddle or Hill for more than 15 yards. That guy can't throw a football.
I agree. We'll see. I think it's going to be very, very
Okay.
close. And another thing is the Bills have a very bad habit of getting down to the red zone and just handing the ball over to the other team. Now, all of a sudden, Jeff Wilson Jr. starts getting loose a little bit. This game gets close. Buffalo gets a little nervous. I think it'll be closer than what people think. That's all I'm saying. And then I do think Joe Burrow, let's be honest, that Monday night game that got canceled, it looked like the Bengals were going to score 75 points.
Yeah.
They're going to win that game by
No.
40.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to get by. Getting by the
Can
Bengals
we-
right now will be very hard.
Can we talk about your betting style in that game for a second, Belly? Let me just bring you into the fold
Yes.
in a text chain during that game before everything went down with Hamlin. I'm trying to get
I'm gonna have
Luke
to
to put
deny
a little
this.
side action on that game, and I wanted to take the Bengals, and he's been going off on how great the Bills are, da-da-da. And this guy says to me, let me wait till the end of the first quarter to decide to make that bet. I'm like, you can't do that.
Can I tell you, Kara? Can I tell you how many times my good pal Luke Wilson has looked at me and said, I think this is going to be the game that I make my first live bet on. And he takes out his FanDuel app and he looks at it. He goes, maybe in 5 minutes. Go pull the trigger, dude. Make a bet.
Yes. No.
Pull the trigger.
Got to make the bet in
Guilty
the
as
moment.
charged.
Shit or get off
Guilty
the
as
pot.
charged.
Wilson.
Guilty
So
as
brutal.
charged. That being said, Seahawks money line, Dolphins money line.
Don't do it. If people are listening to this, don't do it.
You know what? Because
Seahawks
he
will
is,
win this game.
because he is my
The
guy,
Seahawks
and
are winning this
because
game.
I always do have to protect every side. I have taken that part. It's 30-1. I lit $10 on fire, and I just said it's gone.
Here you go.
But on the off chance that he's right, he's going to be so insufferable, or whatever
Yeah.
that word is, that I'll
Yeah.
at least have an extra $300 to help like soften that blow. But even that won't be worth it. So
Okay, so then we'll go last playoff question. Next round. Who ends up? Let's go around the clock here. Who ends up in
Okay.
the NFC and AFC championships?
NFC Championship, it's tough to not have the Eagles and Niners there. I feel like that's the easy pick. I mean, man, I'd really love to see a Bills Chiefs AFC.
Just a sec.
I think everybody
Sorry,
wants
I've got
to
a
see
knock
that.
on the door.
oh, bring the camera with you. Let's see who's at the door.
Let's see who's at the door.
He's got the 5-inch seams on today too.
He wore those during a SportsCenter hit, and he stood up for a second. I was like, "Is this dude wearing underwear to do a SportsCenter hit? What are we doing right now?"
It is nice to see short shorts making their return.
Is it?
I'm trying to get myself there, but like I don't work out legs enough to feel confident.
Big Wilt
enough.
Chamberlain guy going for the short shorts.
There you are.
Oh yeah,
Luke,
the short shorts are the vibe out here.
Yeah, how many inches are those? We were just talking
7?
about them. 7. We gotta
7?
get you some 5s. We'll get you some 5s.
I'm
for
on the
Super
beach
Bowl.
over here, man. It is a little windy today. I should probably put some sweats on. So sorry, I'm getting harassed by my building guy. The guy knocks on my door this morning. It's 30. I'm like, buddy, I'm sleeping, man. I was up till midnight last night. What are you doing? Anyways, we're not gonna get it out on the pod. So right now we've got the Eagles versus the Niners. Is that the consensus?
Yeah, I don't feel like these
Okay,
are sexy picks, but it's tough to argue against them.
My fear at the moment is that the playoff picture seems very clear. I think the Eagles and
Yeah.
Niners have a very clear path. The thing, I think they have a clear path. And then on the AFC side, I think there's only 3 teams. The Super Bowl this
Bengals.
year, to me, Luke and Kara, feels like a 5-team invitational. You have 2
It's
teams
a weird
from the
season.
NFC, the 3 teams from the AFC. It seems like those 5 have really separated themselves from the pack. The only team that I think can blow up that party is the Chargers. The issue with the Chargers, as talented as they are, 1, they can't run the ball, something a former Super Bowl champion would know is very important come playoff time. And 2, their head coach is a moron. And I say that as a guy who's played for a lot of morons. He can't coach. He played his starters all week in Denver in a meaningless game. He routinely shows us that he can't be trusted. If they lose to the Jags this week, he should be fired.
Might be.
They're in a window with Herbert. These young quarterbacks now, before you pay them all these millions of dollars and have to trade Tyreek Hill and trade Amari Cooper and trade all the support, you have to get them this support, the Keenan Allens, the Austin Eckler's, while they're on these rookie deals. They're in a Super Bowl window with Justin Herbert. Their head coach is tanking that. That's my fear with the Chargers.
So is there no love? Is there no love for the Minnesota Vikings?
No, they're fraudulent. I know you hate to say that. You hate to use that word for the Vikings, but come on, man.
I don't think they're fraudulent.
You don't think they're fraudulent?
I think there's teams that
they've won 13 games
in playoff games. I think they're going to win a playoff game and get bounced by a better football team.
I could totally see the Giants winning this weekend. That is the most interesting matchup to me that I would not put any money on because I just can't get a feel for it.
I can't.
I'm going to go
Vikings
Philly
a lot.
versus Minnesota in the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
Ooh. How
AFC
brutal. Let me ask you a question. You and I are going to Super Bowl in Arizona. How brutal would that be if one of the teams that we have to talk about for a week is the Minnesota Vikings?
It'd be awesome.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Talk about
That
Justin
would have
Jefferson
so much
all week.
content.
But you can
We
only
have
talk
so
about
much
Justin
content.
Jefferson for so long.
Kara, if the Vikings make the Super Bowl, I'm going to need some grittying from either
Kara,
from
I'll
the
be
both
honest
of
with
you
you.
in Arizona.
If the Vikings make the Super Bowl, I will hit the gritty on a SportsCenter hit.
Thank you.
There you
Okay,
go.
deal. And then I'll say in the AFC, it's going to be the Bengals and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I think that
That's
the
a good
Chiefs obviously have the bye. They'll handle the Chargers, who I think they'll see in the next round. And then I think it'll be most likely the Bills. And in a close game, the Bills will win this weekend. The Bills and the Bengals. And honestly, unless it's super like aggressive snow game, because it will be in Buffalo, I think the Bengals probably put up 45 points in that one. Maybe like a 45-35. Bengals win.
Are you buying into
I think
this? Are you buying into
Yeah.
these people who are dogging the Chiefs, saying that their schedule was so easy that you don't actually know how good they are? Like
Yeah.
the only if you look at their schedule, the only really good team they beat was the Niners.
They had the
Which
easiest
I
schedule in the
understand
league.
they're saying, but I still think like maybe you just didn't get to see, like, yes, they played easier teams. They had an easier schedule
Actually.
this year, but they're still the Chiefs. They're still gonna rock.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I mean, and I think that they have the experience they have also helps. Like, I understand experience isn't everything. I totally get that. But at the same point, like, it does count. And Mahomes has seen a lot. Kelsey's seen a lot. Andy Reid has seen quite a bit. Like, this team is anyone could get beat. But this team is going to be very tough to beat. So will Buffalo. It'll be tough to beat Buffalo, and so will the Bengals.
At this point, we'll have to chat with producer Alec about it, but I feel like we're almost creeping up on like just doing a full regular episode here with Kara. So Luke, I'm just going to ask you a question as well. How different is the pressure in the playoffs? Like you played, you were a rookie, your first season playing in playoff games. Like that morning, waking up, going to the stadium, does it feel different at any point? When does it start to feel different? Because it must, unless it doesn't.
This is what it's funny you say that, but I think that to 90% of the teams it does, Luke. But Pete was always a big, like, and you've heard him say this, like, and we have Pete Carroll has like a tremendous like primetime win record. Okay, now I know the last couple of years he's lost a couple, but Pete would always preach like, hey, let's make every game primetime. Like, he would drum up. He's one of like the greatest motivators, I think, in pro sports, like, let's call it in the last decade, longer than that, where his whole like philosophy, and if you're in that locker room and most of the years, you did buy into this, where it's like, okay, you go in there and you just take every game like it's a quote unquote championship opportunity. So then when we had these like playoff moments, he would come in and like say, hey, we're not going to make shit up. We're not going to, go nuts. He would always consistently bring up that Reggie Bush lateral in the national championship game against Texas. We've watched it, I believe, on this pod before. He's like, we don't need to do these things. Just go out and treat this like it's a regular game. And he like did everything he could to try and create that atmosphere. So for me, it was never like, oh my God, it's the playoffs now. And a good one for that was, I'm sure you might have seen this here and there, but we have a little basketball net in the in our little like team meeting room, and we would always shoot hoops like before team meetings. We got to New York for the Super Bowl my rookie year, and we're all a little nervous. Like, none of us had really been to the Super Bowl. We didn't have a veteran team that had made playoff runs like that. And the first thing Pete did was like, we got to treat this like it's any other week. And he had someone in front of all of us wheeling a basketball net so we could shoot hoops. So for certain coaches, I'd say that this isn't really a big ordeal. But then there's other teams where they do like, playing to the moment. It's like, hey, let's drum this up. Let's make this moment really big, and let's see if our guys respond. So it's kind of two schools of thought. That being said, I will say my rookie year when we played San Francisco in the NFC Championship, that was the first time I'd ever seen a sports psychologist, because I was like, shit, dude, I was a rookie. I was like, if this game doesn't go well, I'm going to be fucking killed. Like, I would have been afraid to leave the stadium. That was the only game in my career where I felt like, first off, you knew it was going to be an absolute battle, like a complete bloodbath. That defense in the Niners was extremely stout with Patrick Willis, Ahmad Brooks, Aldon Smith, Navarro Bowman. And it was like, on the other side, you had the Legion of Boom. We had Marshawn. Like, we knew that it was going to be a true NFL-style football game. And we had, like, Seattle had obviously lost in 2008, I think it was, in Detroit to the Steelers in the Super Bowl. But other than that, like, no Super Bowl, appearances outside of one, no wins. We're playing our arch rival. We're at home. We have the best defense in a decade. It's going to be a very close game. That was the one moment where I was like, you couldn't like deny that this moment was just different and bigger than all the others. And I felt like that was kind of the Super Bowl too. I know it's awkward to say because Denver had the number one offense, but I remember thinking like probably similar to this year where it's like whoever plays in that AFC championship, and maybe the Eagles will impress during the playoffs, but they'll in the back of their mind, it'll be like, we win this bad boy, we're going to win the Super Bowl. And that was kind of like the thought going into that one as well. So I know it's a long-winded answer, Luke, but that'd be my two answers to that question.
Long-winded answers.
Long-winded never.
Yes, exactly.
They've kind of become, how did you define the Super Bowl there? Something about the biggest spectacle or the biggest moment or whatever? It's kind of how I feel about the last hour of this podcast. It feels like it's been the start of something beautiful. Kara, I got to say thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. This has been this hour has flown right by. I've already forgotten about all the technical issues off the top. It sounded like you were talking through it like a Tim Hortons drive-through. My dad will really enjoy that. My dad's a big Tim Hortons guy. He's always
as is mine. It's a dad thing.
You can never really hear them properly all that much. You're just kind of guessing when you go to the window with what the total is. But I feel like we're gonna have to get you back. We mentioned Super Bowl. You guys are going down there. Might be some fun stuff around that time of year. Luke, you got anything for us to wrap this up on, or should we just call it quits?
Kara, thanks for coming on. I thought this was electric and it was very fascinating to kind of hear some of the behind the scenes stuff. So we appreciate it. And shout out the row at TSN.
Yes. Shout out the row. The people working hard behind the scenes. Love it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Shout out the Guelph Griffins.
Thanks, Kara.
Yes.